All right, here we go. We're continuing on in chapter 11. And actually, I'm going to change this just slightly here because I want you to title this. Now I made this all messy. I want this to be titled 11-2A. Okay, because we're going to kind of break it up into two pieces because there's just so much good stuff in here, and I want to make sure that you are masters of all of this equation solving. Now, so far, I've been putting you through some pretty nasty simplification of expressions. So you had to combine like terms, you had to use the distributive property. We've had a ton of work with remembering all of our properties for integers, those positive and negatives. And so here's where we're at today. Now we're going to put it together into an equation. So basically, your learning objective or your learning target today is I can solve multi-step equations. Okay. Now, most of the time, when we were doing equations before, long ago, we kind of practiced this mantra or these steps. Basically, it was always find the variable wherever it is. Could be on the right, could be on the left. Okay. And then your job was to isolate it or get it alone. Okay, I'm going to use the word isolate because that's a little more compact. Isolate the variable. That means you have to get rid of all of the other numbers and things with it. And how do we do that? We had to undo everything that was happening. Okay, if we were adding to it, we'd subtract it. If we were multiplying it, we'd divide it. If we were dividing, we'd multiply, and so on. Okay, so we're looking to undo or use the inverse operation that's happening. Okay, now though, what's going to make it even more complicated is that in order to solve for this variable, we have to do basically what I've been saying, isolate it, follow the order of operations backwards, undo it, and then we've got to make sure we simplify everything even before we get there. So let's start and warm up this way. Here's your first example. 8/10 m minus 1 7/10 equals 3 9/10. Purposely gave you nasty decimals just so you wouldn't be like, boink, oh yeah, I know the answer. Okay? Because I want you to think about the process and not just try and figure out the answer. All right, here's our variable. Okay, so you go and scan through there and say, aha, there it is. I want to undo everything that's happening. Right now we're multiplying and then we subtract. So now we have to go in reverse order and undo everything. So the first thing you're going to do is add 1.7, 1 7/10. And the reason I put this bar here is so that you can see this side, keep things balanced. If I add 1.7 on this side of the equation, you have to add 1.7 on this side of the equation. The reason we do that, those two wipe out because they're opposites and they go to 0. And now when I'm adding 0 to something, that's called an identity. This just stays the same. So I just have 8/10 m. Okay, getting there. Your goal is to get m to be a 1m all by itself. On this side, we get 5 6/10. All right, right now I'm multiplying m by 8/10. So to undo that, I'm going to divide by 8/10. But I have to make sure I do that on each side of the equation because you have to keep it balanced. 8/10 divided by 8/10 is 1. And 1 times m is just m. That's where we want to be. Get that variable all alone. 5 6/10 divided by 8/10 is actually exactly 7. Yay! So m is 7. If you went in and checked, and you should do this check, you don't necessarily have to write it by hand, but I want you to, on your calculator, go ahead and take 8/10 times 7 and then subtract 1 7/10 and check this. Does it work? Do you get 3.9? Yes, you do. All right, so that warmed us up. Now let's dive into some of these more complicated ones. Let's take a look at this one. 4x plus 6 minus 2x equals 14. All right. Usually the first thing I say is look and find your variable. Where is it? Okay. I'm going to put this bar in here so I'm looking left side, right side. Well, on the left side, I see x's in two places. I see a 4x here, and then I see a minus 2x, and I'm still on the same side of the equal sign. Ding, ding, ding. Hold on. I want you to simplify this. Anytime you can take it and compact it and make it much cleaner, neater, do so. A 4x and a minus 2x will combine to give us just plain old 2x. Nice. I still have plus 6, and this is still equal to 14. But now it's more neat and tidy, and now you can go to town. Here's my variable. Undo what's happening. Subtract 6 from each side. Why do I do that? Because a plus 6 and a minus 6 are opposites. They go to 0. When you add 0, that's called an identity. You get that thing. 2x. 14 minus 6 is 8. Oh, look, you can see this one in your head now. Divide by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. Let me bring this up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And you should get x equals 4. Come over here and ask yourself, oh yeah, does this really work? What is 4 times 4? And then you add 6 and subtract 2 times 4. And check it. Use your calculator if you need to. But in fact, yes sirree, Bob, 22 minus 8, that is 14. Pew! There you go. All right, so we had to do a little combining of like terms this time. Let's look at this one. Ooh, looky here. I have negative 2 times the quantity, 3x minus 4. That equals 38. All right. My variable is right here, but it's trapped inside these parentheses. And the only way to break through those parentheses, well, there's a couple of ways, but I'm going to show you this way today, and I want you to stick with it. Distribute the negative 2 so that your parentheses go away. I get a negative 6x. Negative 2 times a negative 4 or minus 4 gives me plus 8. And this equals 38. Aha! I don't have to do any more simplifying because this is an x term and that's just a constant. So I'm ready to go to town. First of all, get rid of the adding of the 8 by undoing it. Subtract 8. Do it on both sides. That goes to 0. Now we're adding 0 to negative 6x, and that just leaves you with negative 6x. Boop. And now over here we get 30. All right, now hold your horses. Okay, don't go too quickly here. Watch your signs. You might be jumping all over this 5, 5, 5, 5. Not quite. Be careful. Because you have to divide by a negative 6, that gives me positive, and a positive 1x. That's what I wanted. Over here, it's negative 5. Check your answer so you can be absolutely positively sure. You're saying that negative 2 times 3 times a negative 5, which is negative 15, and then subtract 4, that this is supposed to give me positive 38. Well, let's see here. Negative 2 times 9. It is positive 38. Go figure! That just means we're doing a good job and we're being accurate. But check your answer to be sure. All right, one last one in the giant land of uber simplification here. All right, so jot this guy down. 3 times the quantity, y minus 7, and then minus 5y equals 41. So here's my equal sign. Okay, on this side, woo, I got a lot of stuff I got to take care of first. This y is trapped inside these parentheses, and the way I want you to simplify this is by distributing the 3. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times the minus 7 is minus or negative 21. Now my parentheses are gone. Goody goody gumdrops. But bring down the minus 5y. Cool. Equals 41. 41 is going to be bored here for a little while. You just got to hold on. Now, before we continue. I notice here that this is a 3y, and this term, which is on the same side of the equal sign, also is a y term, and you should combine those two together. Negative 2y minus 21 equals 41. All right, well, other than the fact that you've got a lot of negatives here, which is kind of gross, this is actually pretty good. All right, so first things first, let's add 21. Add 21. Those are opposites, they go to 0. When you add 0 to negative 2y, it's just negative 2y. Over here, I get 62. All right, next step, I want it to be a positive 1y, so I'm going to divide by whatever I was multiplying by. It's negative 2. Negative 2. Negative divided by negative is positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I get my 1y. Yes! Woohoo! Careful with your signs. This should be negative 31. Now, great answer, although it's not very common, so of course, I'm always going to check just to make sure. I don't want to have gone through all this work and then have it be inaccurate. So let's plug it in. Let's see. 3 times a negative 31 minus 7 minus 5 times negative 31. Blech! Look at all this. Well, let's see here. This is negative 38. 3 times negative 38. Check me on your calculator because I'm, old school and I don't like to grab my calculator. It's so much work. Negative 5, basically think of it as like negative 5 minus 5 times negative 31 is going to be positive 155. 3 times negative 38 is negative, let's see, negative 90 and 24, negative 114, I think, plus 155. All right, add them up and, is it true? Is it true? I get 41. Yeah, the crowd goes wild. Check your answers, okay? It's always smart to do. All right, this is the kind of stuff you're going to do. On your worksheet that I'm assigning you today, okay, it's a short 14 question type of worksheet that I want you to go ahead, grab, and get started, okay? In fact, I will do the first couple, or I'll do a couple random problems. I want you to pause the video, do number 1, and do like number 6, and then let's see how you did. Problem number 1, draw the bar underneath. Combine like terms, so that's 13x equals 58.5. Then to solve for x, you divide by 13. 13 over 13 is 1, so that gives me a 1x. Grab your calculator and figure out how many times 13 goes into 58 and a half. 52, 6 and a half. I think you get 4.5. Okay? Grab your calculator and check your answer by plugging that in and see if you get 58.5. Okay? Then I think I said what? Maybe number 6? Like this guy? Okay. Negative 2 times 6n, distribute. Negative 12n. Negative 2 times the minus 1 gives you a plus 2. This equals 74. Okay? Nothing else to combine now that I got rid of the parentheses with my distributive property. Put your bar underneath that equal sign to make sure whatever you do on one side, you do to the other. I need to undo adding 2, so I'm going to subtract 2. Away it goes. That's 0 now. And 0 plus a negative 12n is just negative 12n. On this side, I get 72. Sweet. Divide by negative 12. Divide by negative 12. That's positive 1. And, oops. Do you see what I did? I forgot to put a negative sign there. Naughty, naughty. Because you should get negative 6. check your answer just to make sure. Go ahead and plug in what is 6 times negative 6 and then minus 1. That gives me negative 36. Subtract 1. Now inside the parentheses, that's really negative 37. And you need to multiply that by negative 2, and you get positive 74. Oh, look at that. We are the champions, my friend. All right, your job. Okay, we did number 1 together. We did number 6 together. That leaves you 12 whole problems left on the worksheet. So get going. Watch your signs, and as always, may the force be with you. Good luck.